Subscribe and click the notification bell to stay updated with the latest videos from School of Technology, Management and Engineering NMIMS in
A very warm morning to all the faculty, staff members, and our enthusiastic audience. I, Isha Chandravanshi, take immense pleasure in extending a very warm greeting on behalf of NMIMS School of Technology, Management and Engineering family Indore. I'm sure everyone is refreshed after the yoga session. Before we move any further with the session, I would like to inform you all that a feedback form will be floated in the chat box. So please fill the necessary details correctly, as attendance will be provided on the basis of the submission of feedback forms only. India has emerged as the third largest startup ecosystem in the world after the US and China. And the pace of growth is not showing any sign of slowing down. This session is focused on startups and funding opportunities in IoT. To further elaborate on this topic, we have with us Dr. Aaquil Bunglowala, Associate Dean STME NMIMS Indore. He is a proficient leader, well-qualified and technically proficient research scientist with excellent academic qualification. With over 22 years of experience in industry and academics on various profiles, he has substantial experience in sophisticated research techniques and technologies in advanced logic and VSLI design. Okay, sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Isha. Thank you for building up the subject of the discussion. I thank all the participants for their kind presence and patience all across these 5 days. Now, finally, we have come to the last session of the day, wherein we'll try to bring it all together. So let me just share my presentation. I hope the presentation is visible to all the participants. Isha, can you confirm, is the presentation visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. So the session today will have two components, as Isha briefly told us. In the first part, we'll try to sum it up all, whatever has happened in last almost 13 sessions, and then talk about the startup and business ecosystem. What are the funding opportunities? Where do we stand today? And second part of this will be a short session of say 20-25 minutes. And then we'll move on to a panel discussion with our esteemed panel of experts. So before moving on and taking you through my presentation and my understanding of these things, let me just tell you briefly about what we are. So we are an off-campus of NMIMS deemed to be university. This campus was incepted in 2017, and this is school which I represent, School of Technology, Management and Engineering, conducts two different programs. One program is BTech, as you all know, BTech in Computer Engineering and BTech in Computer Science and Business Systems, curated by TCS, and a unique program, MBA Tech, which is an integrated program. I call it unique because NMIMS almost 18 years back introduced this program. Till then, there was no other university offering this program. So we pioneer in this program, and our learning and experience makes it even better. So this MBA Tech program is a 5-year integrated where we offer 2 degrees. One is BTech in Computer Engineering and an MBA in Technology Management with all possible specializations, including finance, marketing, business intelligence, operations, and strategy. So with this brief, let me take you to the way forward for this session. So we'll talk about the business opportunities in IoT. We'll talk about the impact of IoT on business, the opportunities for startups in IoT, globally and nationally. And then we'll move on to our panel discussion where we have 4 experts. We'll talk about them more before we start the panel discussion. One is Mr. Ranjit Nair, who represents Iot Is All. He's the co-founder and CTO of this reputed organization which is into Internet of Things. We have another expert with us who is a venture capitalist, and she has various different profiles which we'll talk about when we start before we start the panel discussion. Ms. Ananya Chandra. We'll be having with us Mr. Gaurav Goyal, the Assistant Director of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, the Government of India Department. Then we'll also have with us another venture capitalist, Ms. Vishakha Verma. And then we'll conclude. So going on, let's talk about the business opportunities. So IoT business opportunities are actually endless, as it covers most everyday life and market areas. It connects various tech products from banking terminals to smart home platforms and many more. From the engineering point of view, IoT era begins at the point where there are more devices than people connected to the web. So in fact, already we have more devices than the people in this whole globe. In 2008, this point was reached. And since then, we are living on an Internet of Things environment, regardless of our personal wish. All this could sound very dark and slightly doomed, but in fact, the non-human segment of Internet gives us a chance for global economy to become more human-oriented. So let's talk about business opportunities further. In conjunction with other advanced technologies, such as the technologies which are discussed nowadays, artificial intelligence and machine learning, the Internet of Things is a real opportunity for us to solve problems that humanity could not cope with over the years. For example, inequality, poverty, inequitable distribution of resources, and much more. And of course, the Internet of Things can free whole class of people from doing mechanical work. To measure IoT business opportunities, let's take some numbers. Last year, the global Internet of Things market was estimated at 150 billion. At the same time, according to the most conservative estimates, by the end of 2025, the market will exceed 1.5 trillion. And this is huge. The Internet of Things is not yet fully explored. Therefore, startups in this area today receive fundings much faster than other projects. The development of IoT industry entails additional investment in related tech areas like smart home and self-driving cars that grow the most rapidly. Compare 663 million gained by the industry in 2017 and 50 billion from the very next year. And what if we go further and take a look at smart city concept that is widely discussed across Europe and the US. The smart city is no more a dream about self-driving inhabited units with automated transport systems, governmental services, and housing services, but a challenge for IoT architects. In 2019, over 20% of huge IoT projects were launched in this area. That means that these years, there will be a strong demand for tech solutions connected with city life automation. Global trade and retail banking and healthcare systems will certainly be affected by the Internet of Things innovations. In 2021, there will be up to 4 web-connected devices for everyone on Earth. Can we imagine? These devices will do a lot of work for us, and the one who masters the new niche first, offering a good solution in the field of automation of customary operations as his unique IoT business ideas, is likely to earn a lot. So what are the impacts of IoT on business? IoT business idea is only one aspect of how the Internet of Things development influences business. Obviously, new niches are forming this time. But what if we change our perspective and look on business in general using the IoT lenses? Basically, IoT is an interconnected system of various appliances, individual devices, vehicles, and any other electronic item. You have heard about this a lot in last 4-5 days. At the same time, it is empowered by software that uses their sensors, actuators, and connectivity. So the major IoT idea is to make data as well as big data sharing and analysis fast and accurate. IoT doesn't need a human anymore to get allowances for executing routine tasks. All of them are approved by the user in advance. That's why some business operating spheres may change a lot because of IoT integration into this process. So what are the key business aspects that have changed? The key business aspects that have already changed due to IoT innovations include a new approach to inventory tracking. IoT software can do a huge part of work assigned to inventory management. It can manage your storage units, measure intercompany resources, check if all of your hardware is in order, and make requests to your suppliers, no matter are you working in healthcare, retail, web development, or any other. And what is more important, IoT software never makes human factor mistakes. Data collecting and interpreting. Any company works with data. You may collect information on the buyer cycle, record the most popular requirements, study the way people use your online platform and product, and investigate the efficiency of your promotional channels. Luckily, technologies allow marketers to pass data processing to special software which collects and properly interprets data. Due to this, the user experience improvement becomes easy to conduct. Next business aspect that has changed enormously. Automating efficiency and productivity. Internet of Things investment opportunities is great for you even if you work in an area that is far from the IT world. Connect your business involved devices and give them the right to optimize their work automatically. Calculate workflow drawbacks and look for most frequent reasons for customer service slowing down. IoT implementation can raise the efficiency of your company twice and even more with no extra investments. Make the quality of your product higher and free up staff time for more creative tasks. Also, using IoT, you can reject hiring low-skilled employees in favor of really skilled ones that could move your company way ahead. Another aspect, no office time. Technology has allowed many companies to forget about the office concepts at all. Nowadays, employees can interact with each other using a variety of digital devices. The heads of the company can also monitor employees' performance and know exactly what is happening in the company from outside the physical office. So we are sitting here in Indore. There are two major IT giants which are present in Indore. And you'll be surprised to know that not in this COVID scenario, not more than a few employees, few to an extent of 20-25 employees are turning back to the campus. But the efficiency and the productivity has not gone down. This makes it possible to save money on renting premises and hiring specialists residing in your area. Going further, what are the opportunities for startups in IoT? So Internet of Things opportunities seem to be actually endless, and the only factor that limits them is the poor development of this digital niche itself, comparing to other tech market areas. Nevertheless, nearly all modern digital devices are connected to the web. Some of them have just a few internet-based functions. For example, a video surveillance system records what's going on within the area, saves and sends recording to other devices automatically. A PC and a smart home are often multifunctional. They can execute various interaction scenarios and be programmed by us. The numbers are going to grow as there is still constant demand on that kind of projects among investors. Over 78% of IoT startups got not more than 2 funding rounds. In 2021, the number of identified active Internet of Things IoT startups has grown to over 1,200, according to IoT Analytics' latest report on the topic. So let's now focus on the most lively markets for IoT startups. Healthcare is the one. Healthcare is a field where lots of IoT ideas were implemented for the first time. In 2016, around 60% of healthcare institutions were using the Internet of Things devices, and by the end of 2019, more than 87% of them plan to implement the technology to serve their clients. Developed countries such as US, that is the largest IoT market in the world, have long appreciated the importance of automation and ability to avoid errors associated with human factors offered by IoT technologies. It is expected that investment in project related to healthcare IoT markets will increase to 534 billion by 2025. The second IoT healthcare leader is European Union. As much as 2.79 million devices are going to be integrated into EU healthcare system by the end of 2019. Here, we have collected the major trends of niche to help you to develop your IoT business ideas. Let's go to the next, IoT in manufacturing. I'll be talking about all these heads, all these market areas, possibilities for IoT business startups a little more in detail in the forthcoming slides. So IoT in manufacturing, with the help of IoT, the owner can link operational technology and information technology to automate lots of business processes, monitor product quality easily, and manage all the resources being far from the working cabinet. Recent IoT ideas in the field of manufacture could be applied nearly to every existing industry. We'll be discussing this more in our panel discussion. Next is IoT in retail. Internet of Things is a network that connects physical devices in the field of retail. Technology can also bring many benefits, improving the customer experience and reducing the owner's costs. Automatic debiting of funds from your account after you left the store with the selected product and displaying the store map on the screen of your smartphone after you came to the store for the product you saw on the internet are just the most obvious Internet of Things ideas, which quite possibly will soon become real in countries where consumerism is the norm and lifestyle. For example, in the USA, the China, and India. How promising is the retail industry for those who want to launch a startup using IoT approaches? Let's talk in terms of numbers. The potential of the IoT-based retail segment today is estimated at $410 billion. It is expected that by 2025, annual profits of the IoT retail market will increase to 1.2 trillion. So you can see the scope. Next is IoT in agriculture. Agribusiness is another area in which IoT solutions are very popular. The population of the planet continues to grow, which means that agriculture should produce more and more food products to feed us. Since Earth's natural resources are very limited, production can be increased only through careful use of land, water, and other natural components. AgTech is the sphere to which agricultural-related IoT ideas 2021 belong. Just 4 years ago, the investment in this sphere amounted to almost $4.6 billion. And by the end of 2030, they are expected to increase by 60%. IoT in banking. Mobile tech and IoT development have significant impact on the bank industry. IoT-empowered banks can provide customers with really personalized and customer-facing solutions. Digitization and IoT automation turn banks into convenient tool to manage finances for those who would be scared of having any deal with banks because of bank procedures complexity. Banks' operations are also becoming transparent for customers. One more advantage is the raising inclusiveness of banks, which are now reachable from any mobile device. A vivid confirmation of these thoughts is the compound annual growth rate, CAGR, of IoT in banking. From 2019 to 2027, this index is expected to reach 55.3%. So let's take up these sectors a little quickly and what are the opportunities we have. IoT in healthcare. So the first area where you have very good opportunities in IoT in healthcare is patient monitoring. That kind of devices is considered to be the most demanded electronic medical devices in the nearest years. A patient monitoring consists of monitoring sensors and display that measure, show and record patients' vital signs like body blood pressure, temperature, pulse rate, and respiratory rate. ECG monitors and EKG monitors are also types of medical monitors. Transparency with healthcare organization. Due to Internet of Things, the healthcare sector will become more transparent and economical. Accounting systems, electronic patient recording systems, and other approaches used by hospitals led to cost saving. More than 73% of organizations working in health sector confirmed that their costs have decreased and the quality of services has improved after the IoT implementation. Remote operation. Every second IoT device in healthcare is a device for remote operation and control. This technology is already used in the UK and other countries. It is about providing medical care at a distance, as well as non-stop remote monitoring of a person's condition. IoT health. Next is IoT healthcare soft protection. More than 80% of organizations that have implemented IoT ideas have encountered errors in their work and suffered cyber attacks. Even now, equipment in this area has many vulnerabilities, and the cost of leakage of patient data could cost a lot. It is expected that in the near future, the cyber defense system for hospital electronic system will actively develop. Going further, let's talk of IoT in manufacturing. So the first area is smart sensors. IoT makes manufacturing cost effective and time efficient. A variety of interconnected devices for monitoring the process of production and transportation helps companies to find out causes of product quality drawbacks and production delay. 3D printing. The technology of volumetric printing is used even by small manufacturers. Creating a piece of prototype allows you to fix the critical vulnerabilities of the future industrial design and reduce losses caused by product defect. By 2021, the profit of the technology market in the field of 3D printing is estimated at almost $3.1 billion. Flexible production chains. Digitization in manufacturing can take on a very different role. Within one enterprise, they may use digital twins. In other companies, they experiment with mobile apps, and someone develops AI approaches. But the goal is always the same: dealing with the global market requirement, flexibility, high service speed, openness, and high quality from the manufacturer. Automation maintenance IoT idea is what the solution looks like in 2021. AI, we talk a lot about AI on each production level. It is not a secret that AI's manufacturing processes performs better quality control than people, as well as reduce the time required to execute the production task, saving your materials and money. By the end of 2025, the shared revenue of AI market will reach almost $118 billion, and at least 20% of all solutions will be related to manufacturing issues. Big data storage and analysis. Using IoT will help managers make informed decisions about the future development of enterprise. Programs that work with IoT devices will be able to collect data such as chronicles of enterprise productivity, demand for manufactured goods, prices of materials, and industry trends in local markets. IoT in retail. Mobile payment apps and checkout systems. No more queues. The most promising and simple technology that is implemented in retail network is automated checkout. How does it work? Each product has an electronic tag that a sensor system reads when you exit the store. This approach not only stimulates sales, but also reduces the cost of maintaining cashiers. By 2025, 75% of stores are expected to use automatic checkout systems. Let's look forward. Discounts personalization. Sounds interesting. IoT allows retailers to increase conversion using their creativity. First, you can give discounts to regular customers when they enter the store. The sensor system can fix the person on whose device the store application is installed. Second, you can give a discount to the regular customer on the goods to which he or she approaches in the store. And third, you may track the requests of your buyer on the internet and provide discounts on exactly those products in your store. So Beacon's system of Apple is actually an example of providing customers with personalized discounts. The app lets the user know about discounts in particular shops when she or he passes it. Smart shelves, robots and smart shelves. None of these IoT-based technologies emerged yesterday, but it is expected that next year they will be used in every second store. The smart shelves save the time of stores employees as they can automatically keep track of the goods and send replenishment requests to the store. The smart shelves may indicate a discrepancy between the price tag and the content as well as fix thefts. Customer behavior. Customer behavior study to find out how to improve the layout of goods in your sales area or avoid human jams at the cash desk. Install a tracking system to learn the behavior of the store visitors. It can automatically process the information that the cameras, cash registers, and mobile client apps send to it, and then provide you with ready-made solutions. This is one more IoT investment opportunity. And the last one is retail network management. So IoT helps you to manage your stores and stocks at a distance, as well as constantly receive information about what is happening. For example, you can equip stocks with the temperature trackers and configure automatic temperature maintenance that recognizes the type of goods you store. You can also monitor the delivery of new products to the store and suppliers' pricing. Automatic transactions and product purchase are also the reality of IoT world, which accelerates business processes by up to 25%. IoT in agriculture. So field sensors, there are many options for the usage of sensors in agriculture. For example, you can surround the field with sensors that will recognize the readiness of the crop and report it to the farmer. And there are many more. I'll keep it short. Going to the next, equipment sensors. As you know, the equipment that farmers use is worth millions. The better it works, the higher the efficiency of the farmers. Modern combine harvesters, tractors, and even smart farm systems that automate routine agricultural processes can be equipped with sensors that monitor their technical health and prevent breakdowns. Automated field monitoring. Drone-based crop monitoring that is being actively used in the US today is one more IoT business opportunity. IoT becomes the medium for transferring data from drone's camera to a processor, which calculates whether the field will be suitable for efficient farming. The system predicts the time for which the land can be planted. Robo Farming. AI has potential in field of agriculture, where most of the work is monotonous. Planting, fertilizing the soil, watering, harvesting, and transporting the crop all can be automated within the framework of IoT approaches. Do not forget that the robot can be very strong. It does not need to sleep and take a break for lunch. In addition, robots can be used in difficult to reach regions. Surprisingly, but robots are also environmental friendly. The use of them allows us to reject almost 90% of agrochemical products. Origin tracking. IoT approach in the relationship between farms and shops will help protect the end customer health. With the help of special code. Right now in some stores, you can find out not only who the supplier of the product is, but also how this product was grown, tillage, terms and conditions of storage of crop, and much more. Thus, a farmer who has violated production standards will be personally responsible for his mistake. Going to the last most lively market area, IoT in banking. Personalized banking solutions. The development of IoT is dangerous for banking sectors. Sellers and buyers, as well as employers and individuals, use automated financial management system based on the peer-to-peer business model, which excludes banks at all. At the same time, banks provide valuable financial guarantee, which peers do not. However, bank must become flexible to meet the needs of the customers. Financial institutions have already invested almost like 117 million in tech startups to study customer behavior, to analysis of their bank accounts and data from the bank's mobile apps. The idea is to develop an alternative for the peer-to-peer model, even more flexible, personalized, and reliable. IoT, banking, and security. IoT banking is simplified system of financial transactions which requires minimal action from the client's side. On the one hand, client always has access to information about his financial transactions. On the other hand, he does not need to confirm routine things like permitting the bank to pay for parking space that the client has taken. Mobile devices literally become the client's pay points. Another aspect of IoT banking is biometric password and tracking of the client's mobile device. Matching a client's mobile device, a camera of this device, a fingerprint scanner, bank servers, GPS sensors, and scanners of the bank card chips into one system resulted in maximum protection of clients' account. Bank of Things, BOT, they call it in short, and data protection. Mobile apps that simplify banking operation is not the limit of digitization of banks. Many things. A new concept by US financial institutions is called Bank of Things. It refers to the global IoT in business infrastructure that allows individuals and legal customers to exchange financial data within a single network, avoiding banks, which links all personal IoT devices. Contactless payment and the ability to monitor the budget in real mode, as well as reducing transaction chains, are major advantages of BOT. Similar innovations have already been tested by Visa and MasterCard. Unfortunately, BOT-oriented business models have serious flaws, like vulnerability to cyber attacks. For example, in 2018, 1.7 million bank accounts were affected by cyber criminals. It is expected that cyber defense system will be in demand in upcoming years. So friends, with this, I bring my presentation to an end, and let's proceed towards the next part of our session. Over to you, Isha.
Thank you, sir, for such an informative session. The second part of the session is a panel discussion, further elaborating on the integration of IoT and startups. The panelists for today are Mr. Ranjit Nair, Ms. Ananya Chandra, Mr. Gaurav Goyal, and Ms. Vishakha Verma. Mr. Ranjit Nair is the co-founder and CTO at Nsme Systems, a company focused on the Internet of Things. He has 20 years of experience in product development across enterprise companies and startups. He has in-depth understanding of building products and understanding market fit. Ms. Ananya Chandra is an innovation curator. She invests in early-stage technology company and, more importantly, support amazing entrepreneurs on their journey. She also advises corporates on their startups collaboration efforts. She has 9+ years of experience in this industry. Mr. Gaurav Goyal is Assistant Director at MSME Development Institute, Indore. He is also the Inspection Engineer at Indian Register of Shipping. He has an experience of more than 12 years in his field. Ms. Vishakha Verma is a venture capitalist and startup advisor. She has mentored startups and handled overseas VC collaborations. She implements strategic growth measures to build visibility and attraction from the investor community and startups. The panel discussion will be moderated by Dr. Aaquil Bunglowala, Associate Dean, STME. I now request Aaquil sir to kindly take over.
Thank you very much, Isha, and a very hearty welcome to all my panelists. And I can see Ananya madam, I can see Vishakha madam, I can now see Ranjit sir also. Gaurav sir, can I please request you to switch on your camera? Hello Gaurav sir, how are you? So nice of you to be all with us today. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I mean, I know you people are busy people and you could spare time, and I hope I'll make my effort not to take you long, and relieve you in time. Although we are late by almost 10-15 minutes to start the session, and it all happened because we had a yoga session in the morning from 8 to 10, and it was so interesting it extended for 10 minutes. So that's why we are delayed by some 10-15 minutes. Sorry for that. So thank you, Isha. I welcome all the panelists, all the participants for their kind presence. I understand it has been hectic 5 days for all the participants, but thankfully we are on the last day, last session before the closing ceremony. And I hope this serves the whole effort we made in last 5 days. So in words of Nicholas Negroponte, American architect, founder and chairman emeritus of Massachusetts Institute of Technology Media Lab, like air and drinking water, being digital will be noticed only by its absence, not its presence. So IoT, as per Cisco's Alok Bardia, Internet of, actually they quote it as Internet of everything. It's now a part and parcel of our life. Moreover, with 5G and AI at the edge of advancing, IoT sensors and devices are becoming more and more widespread. In August 2021, IBM announced the expansion of capability of the 5G Industry 4.0 testbed at IBM's Industry Solution Labs in Coppell, Texas, with the help of collaboration with Verizon to allow enterprise customers at the lab to test and develop innovations in 5G-enabled use cases for Industry 4.0 applications. So with this context, I would like to request Mr. Ranjit Nair to throw some light on what are the major applications of 5G and AI-based IoT technologies in various industries. Over to you, sir.
Let me just unmute myself. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, please call me Ranjit, Dr. Bunglowala. So it's a pleasure to be on this panel. I'm actually an expert in manufacturing, so I'll talk about that. I mean, there is a lot of applications of IoT in multiple spaces, but I wouldn't want to comment about areas that I don't really have much expertise on. So I want to split this whole conversation into two sections, if I may, right? And I'll come to the 5G part later on. And during your presentation, you hit upon very interesting themes. And let me just talk about applicability of IoT in manufacturing, right? So unfortunately, IoT gets crushed by its own weight of expectations. As we went through your presentation, we saw such a universal applicability of what it does that over a period of time, I've connected about 130 manufacturing plants onto my platform. People are horribly confused about what IoT is all about, right? Because it seems to be everything, and it really isn't that, right? So when you take a step back and say, what is it really all about? It's like three technologies that have propelled this entire wave, right? One of them is cheap sensors and computes. So, I mean, a lot of your students might have hacked around and played around with a Raspberry Pi. It came about 6 or 7 years ago, $30 computer, cheap, ability to connect, has sensors built in. That just exploded the whole market for people to come in and say, let's build cheap sensors, cheap compute, and try and connect things that never got connected because it's too expensive to connect them. That was the first one, right? The second one is like when you connect machines, you have this explosion of data. So for instance, if I connect a die casting machine in manufacturing, it generates 5 million data points a day. You can't have systems installed inside a plant that can deal with this volume of data. You need cloud-based systems. So that was the next kind of driver for this technology. And the third thing is people have started democratizing AI, right? For instance, any kid can go in, download some Python code and build a neural network. You ask them, what does it actually mean? Neural networks, nobody will give you an answer. People have given you black boxes, saying that push data into a black box and the black box will give you an answer. And that has kind of democratized AI. So it's a combination of these three technologies that have kind of given a rise to IoT, which is cheap sensors, cheap compute, cloud computing, and data science, right? And data science is a cheap word. I like to use the word mathematics. I think it's more mathematics than anything else, right? So it's understanding of these three technologies have given rise to this explosion in IoT, right? And just going back to applicability to IoT in manufacturing, and I'll expand on that, in the latter half of the session, right? When you walk into a manufacturing plant, what are the main constructs of what you do, right? You sell stuff, you plan how to manufacture that stuff, you spend several weeks manufacturing that stuff, and then you ship these items out to customers, right? Every manufacturing facility does exactly that. Now, when we walk into a manufacturing plant, and we have experience of about 150 manufacturing plants, right? People say, we ask them one simple question: how many SKUs or how many items can you manufacture in a day? And they give us an estimate, and the estimate is based on how am I utilizing the plant. So very often people say, I'm utilizing the plant 90%. And how do they know this? Because the machines are not connected at this point in time. It's just a plant and it's running. And these are expensive machines, but they're surprisingly not connected. And they tell us, look, we are assuming 80% capacity utilization, right? When we plug in the systems and start collecting data from machines, the real number is closer to 35. It's shocking. So across the board, in the majority of the manufacturing plants that I've worked on, personally looked at data, manufacturing plants are probably running at half capacity that they should do. So that's the big opportunity for IoT in manufacturing, which is to say, you can double your capacity if you do this right in 60 to 90 days after installing a system of this nature. And Dr. Bunglowala, last comments on this, right? Based on data, where you're not relying on people. Plants have relied on people to collect this data, and people have given them wrong data. When you connect the machines, start collecting all of this information and start analyzing this data dispassionately using algorithms, you arrive at a conclusion that you're grossly underutilizing this, and therefore spending too much money buying new equipment, consuming too much energy, consuming too much raw material, making bad products. All of these can be eliminated rapidly, right? Within 3 months by putting the right systems, data collection, and analytics in place. So that's the first part of my argument, which is like the applicability to IoT and manufacturing, and I can expand on that going forward. I think 5G is more of a means to an end. It's not really, you have your phone, you can pick it up, and your telecom operator claims to give you like X Gbps. The number is usually 1/4 that. 5G will just give you a faster pipe. I think I'm more excited about technologies that will enable machines to collect almost in a wide area network like fashion. What happens practically, and this is a big problem, is when we go into plants and start connecting machines, right? It's really expensive to retrofit machines with connection protocols, right? For instance, inside your office, you can run a LAN cable and you run it 100 meters. What if the factory is 2 kilometers long? You can't run these kind of cables. It costs lakhs and crores of rupees to put the networking infrastructure to be able to connect these kind of machines. So what you need is efficient wireless connectivity protocols that allow these machines to come into a wireless network or a mesh, if I may. And then 5G becomes a final pipe, which gives you enough bandwidth to be able to connect these machines to the cloud and to be able to analyze these data sets. So it's going to be a combination of things like LoRa and a lot of interesting wireless technology that does the last mile connectivity, and then 5G will act as the pipe to kind of connect these machines and push data to the platform. So that's how I see this entire world play out.
Nice insights, Ranjit. In fact, I was reading somewhere that Amazon kind of, if not commits, almost meets up the percentage productivity improvement of almost like 12 to 13% in a duration of 6 months. And I mean, this is hugely affecting the productivity as well as the returns on investment for the companies. So, yeah.
See, Dr. Bunglowala, it's data, right? Like for instance, just to draw a parallel, right? What is the capacity utilization of your car that you have at home? It's 2%, right? So you should not be wasting money buying fancy cars because you only utilize 2% of the time.
Correct.
If you take that example forward, you spend 15 crores on a machine, you discover that you utilize it only 30% of the time. If you double that within 3 months, you have the opportunity to save the money that you would have spent in buying a new machine. It's hugely powerful.
Right. True. So having that perspective of manufacturing industries, let's go further and let's bring our focus to a little to Indian IoT market. So as per India IoT market research analysis forecast 2024 by Goldstein Research, there are around 971 startups of IoT in India, and Bangalore, being the hotbed of IoT, holds 51% of total IoT startups. As per Statistica 2029, there are approximately 250 million Internet of Things devices connected in India, and this number is expected to grow to almost 2 billion by 2021. So having said this, I'd like to know from Madam Ananya Chandra, who is a venture capitalist, and in India there are only few startups, I mean, as compared to the humongous number of companies operating, enthusiasts, very few startups working in the core field of IoT. What are the factors you think are behind this?
Thank you, Aaquil, for inviting me here. And Rajit, I agreed with a lot of what he said in terms of what are some of the issues in terms of connectivity. I think as an investor, one of the key things I've realized is that startups are often looking towards the West for their business models and taking a lot of things that are just assumptions that have not been proven out in the Indian context. Let's start with the Indian customer, whether it's in the industrial context or even an Indian consumer, we're more value conscious. So it's much harder for us to change a behavior that has been, very manpower led, and adopt something in the short run that's more expensive, that can potentially have larger savings, but those savings have not been proven out yet. So I think one of the biggest challenges that IoT startups have while raising funding is showing that there is a sufficient, there's a large enough market, and that market will bite whatever they're selling. I think the second is in terms of where we are in India, we're at the stage where we have labor shortages, but there's this perception that there is a lot of manpower, and that manpower is still cheaper than replacing it with hardware. And so I think that is just complementing this thing that I would not fully agree that India does not have enough IoT startups. I think this is a burgeoning sector. And I think the government is placing so much emphasis. I know Mr. Gaurav Goyal was going to talk about it, but there's just a lot happening in terms of incubation centers, Digital India campaign, etc. I think a third thing that for Indian startups to consider when it comes to business models is that, like, let's take the case of agriculture. In the US, the average size of a farm may be 250 hectares. In India, it's 2 hectares. So you can't have the same IoT-driven business model that, for instance, I think you also talked about it in your presentation, Dr. Aaquil, about like smart farming on large farms. It won't work when you're dealing with numerous farmers with 2-3 hectare land. So we've seen a lot of agri-tech startups come up with partnership-led models that don't exist in the West. And so we need similar business model innovation in India and various other sectors as well. I think one point that Ranjit touched upon, and just the broader point is that internet connectivity, internet infrastructure, edge data centers, these things are needed to, these enabling technologies are needed to make, more newer IoT use cases come up. For instance, if you're going to have autonomous vehicles, you need to have a strong edge data computing center. You need to have fog computing, the entire network, because you can't have that possibility that data is going to go to the cloud and, it's going to take 20 seconds. You don't have 20 seconds for that kind of computing. I think another thing is that, prior to InnoPact, which is, my investment vehicle, I used to be co-heading AGNI, which is the Government of India's technology commercialization program. And one of the things that we were seeing is that quality of sensors is still an issue. not as much as it was a few years ago, but that is compromising quality of or perceived quality of Indian IoT tech. And also, I think in terms of startups, they're looking to create solid hardware play in IoT. There's always this risk that, at the end of the day, it's all getting commoditized because everyone has the same sensors. And so there's a huge shift that we have already seen in startups focusing on the software element and incorporating AI, ML, big data. And I think that's really where a lot of the value is generated. So when you say core IoT, it's actually, core IoT is an enabling technology for the use case, which I think a lot of the value that's captured by business is in the software. I'll stop there.
True, very true. And as you told, the kind of infrastructure we have, will it be really able to support all the sectors of business if we try to make them IoT enabled? That always remains a question. And yes, we are a populous country, so cheap manpower always discourages an industry to go in for an IT solution. But as Ranjit was talking, the productivity, if as an industry, I understand the kind of productivity I can draw out of the huge investment I have made. That's where probably it brings in that triggering point to shift my focus to IoT enabling. Thank you, Ananya. For extending this discussion further about investors investing in IoT startups, what exactly they look for. So I'd like to know from Vishaka Madam, what all basic parameters you as an investor consider before investing in IoT enabled startups?
Right. Well, thank you so much for inviting me, and it's a wonderful discussion to get all of these insights. So being, working with venture capital is pretty much my entire career so far. I have had the opportunity to, look at several different, IoT based startups and evaluate them. One of the key things that we look at is, at what stage these startups are approaching us. Many a times it's just entrepreneurs with a wild idea, with no proof of concept, where, we want to see the actual proof that, yes, this is something that can work out. Many a times, a lot of entrepreneurs that, approach us miss out on that important aspect, whereas they're just approaching us on the ideation stage, and it's just, something that's very raw. So for us to actually validate that and see if it's something that can practically be implemented in today's, in the Indian ecosystem is something that we have to really dig deep and see. All of these founders, especially tech-based founders, there is, a certain gap in the, in the market with technology. But many times these problems are created in sectors where, such adoption is not really needed, which is where we go ahead and verify if this is a genuine problem that can be eased out with IoT. And if so, then yeah, definitely we go ahead and, evaluate these deals further. But one of the main problems is that majority of the startups are still aiming at, creating B2B IoT solutions for, the top corporates, whereas they're sort of, at times missing out that the MSME segment is the main focus that should be there when, should be in the back of their minds when they're, developing their platforms, because the MSME sector is something, very slow in technology adoption. And that's also, in recent reports and in recent expert discussions has been identified that that is where the next 1 trillion opportunity lies. So it's basically about empowering those areas with IoT. There's also a lot of internal struggle, right, when you're going into these markets, because many a times the business owners for these MSMEs have been, running their business for generations in a completely traditional mindset. So whereas if you're trying to get into IoT for healthcare, it's much more easier than, making agriculture sector adopt to it. So we also look at, what sort of a mindset their, target market is going to be having, and has there already been some sort of an adoption? A lot of startups approach us, which are, more or less copy pastes of, successful ones. So we definitely look for, what sort of a tweak are they having as well as how easy it is to use their softwares. Right now the shift is going, rather than having to integrate a fresh new software for any firm, to instead go in for a plug and play, where their platform is just something that can be integrated very easily with the online platforms that are already being used by. Obviously, traction and revenue numbers are something that we look at, but especially in the IoT space, there is a gestation period that is slightly higher as compared to other um, other technologies. So these are all the different things that we definitely look at.
Ananya madam, would you like to add on this?
No, I agreed with everything that Vishaka that you mentioned. I think that the Me Too problem is a problem that with startups across the board. I think that with in the IoT space, it goes a little further because there are Me Too's of business models that are perhaps not appropriate for the Indian context.
In fact, startup owners generally want to raise large funds, and that too very fast. The startup investors are not benevolent creatures. They are looking for certain signals that help to persuade them to part with them. I mean, it's very important. So I can understand your perspective. So as Vishaka touched upon the MSME sector, India's MSME sector is a significant contributor to its rapid socio-economic development. And there are approximately almost 6.3 crore MSMEs today, generating turnover of almost rupees 300 crores in India. So the startup industry isn't lagging either. Something like 3,000 startups are emerging per year and are predicted to create over 2.5 lakh jobs in coming years. So Indian entrepreneurial spirit is undying. However, there is one roadblock that poses quite the problem: the capital shortage, as we all understand. So with this context, I would now like to pull in Mr. Gaurav Goyal, who represents the government MSME setup. How government is supporting startups, industries through MSME, and especially our focus of discussion is IoT, so especially IoT based startups so far. So if you can throw some light on this, Gaurav. Looks like Gaurav has got disconnected. Yeah, Mr. Gaurav, can you hear me?
I'm audible, sir?
Yeah, you are very much audible.
Is that? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for inviting me. Actually, I am just traveling on an unplanned journey. So, sorry for that. As already mentioned that MSME sector is a vibrant sector, and government of India is dreaming for 5 trillion economy on the basis of MSME sector only. The MSME sector is the second sector which is contributing in Indian economy from last 60 decades. So government is basically dreaming for Atmanirbhar Abhiyan, Atmanirbhar Bharat based on the MSME sector only. MSME sector is a very wide sector in which we needs a lots of things to do. As today's topic is IoT, so government is thinking that there is a huge scope in IoT sector because we are we are not developed country, we are in developing nature. So there is a huge difference between the developing and developed countries. Government is thinking that we need some innovation and inventions in there are huge areas where we need it, like agriculture sector. We need smart we need IoT for smart agriculture. We need IoT for smart cities. We already decided lots of cities as smart cities, but we have not types of inventions or innovations or products that can be used in smart cities. We are also needed IoT startups for crowd management. We need startups in water management. There is a huge steps in all types of management. You know, we are very lacking in IoT. There is a huge management skills required for startups based on IoT, because first we have to prepare ourselves that what's going on in the world. So that's create only a smart IoT startup. On behalf of Government of India, Ministry of MSME, we are working for all types of MSMEs to promote them, to provide them facilities, to provide them credit, to provide them space. We have lots of schemes to give the MSME finance, lands, reimbursements. On every part we are supporting MSME, but there is a very lack of awareness amongst the MSMEs that they did not aware about the Government of India schemes, and they are blaming that there is no such credit facilities by the bankers, by the Government of India. But you may surprise that Government of India is giving 2 CR loan without any collateral security under CGTMSE scheme. It's a very huge amount to start a startup. As lots of management people says that start big but with a small quantity. So if we start with a small quantity and with a small investment, there is a chances of growth. And we have to focus about on the smart, we have to make our plan so that we can get the success in a short period. Also, we are supporting MSMEs in giving lands, office spaces in very short rents, on very lease amounts. As you know that in Indore, IT Park is there. State government is providing good space in IT parks, that is known as very good spacious, to give the environment to IT startups so that their creative mind should start something innovation. We need innovation. Government of India is looking for innovation to come the dreams about Atmanirbhar Bharat. Without a proper innovation that we need, we cannot see about that our India will be Atmanirbhar Bharat in 2025. Government also supporting in giving loans. I already says that 2 CR loans is available without any collateral securities. We are providing lands on very nominal charges for MSME sectors. We are giving a free space to startups. You know very well, we established very well incubation centers in all the smart cities. State government is already set up lots of incubation center, and we are also having lots of incubation center. On behalf of Ministry of MSME, we have more than 27 incubation centers in Madhya Pradesh, and most of them are from Indore. All the incubation center like IIT Indore, Sage University, Oriental University, Prestige, we have maximum incubation center in all the reputed institutions where we are giving the facilities of infrastructure so that any individual who is having any idea can visit the incubation center without any cost. This just sit there, think about the invention, think about the idea, and we help them to nourish their idea with the help of their faculties, institutions faculty. If the idea is shortlisting, we are giving 15 lakhs rupees per idea to the individual. And this is not a subsidy types, it's a grant. We did not ask about to return back to us. We are just giving if your idea is worthy. So IoT ki baat kare to there is a huge scope, sir. Government is thinking to develop, to speed up the developing nature of India. But without IoT, it's not possible. We have many sectors like agriculture sector, we have manufacturing sector, we are lacking in manufacturing. We are having a retail concepts, very good retail chain we have to develop. In last COVID, second wave of COVID, we are just lacking of oxygen because of supply chain, mismanagement of logistics and supply chain. If we are thinking about some ground level problems, so we have lots of things to do. With the help of IoT, we can work smartly, we can reduce the time, we can reduce the labor charges of our requirements. And for this, we have to do something practical and inventions. So for inventions, मैं request करूंगा हमारे जितने भी आज participants हैं, you just thinking about the ground level problem. We have lots of problem. If you are just thinking that somebody is traveling from Gwalior to Indore and I need some support, so what should I do? Is there any platform so that I will know that somebody is in my contact list is near to me? So is there any types of things? So there is a lots of issues and there is a lots of problems, but we have to identify problem. We have to provide a solution, and that solution is your idea that will help you to start your own industry or own startups. So government is doing well, and we needs your help to do the betterment of India. We need lots of things from your side. Government is ready to help you. Whenever you will ask about the money, we will give you. If you ask about the land, electricity, water, we will give you. If you need a market assistance, we will send you in international trade fairs without any cost. We will send you in domestic trade fairs without any cost. We will give you the IPR facility. We will help you in filing a patent. We will help you in filing a trademark. Will help you. We also help you in connecting all the reputed institutes of India, whether it's an IIT, whether it's an IIM, whether it's any research laboratory, CSIR laboratories. If you need any types of assistance, we are always with you. But for this, you have to work on your idea, and your idea is somehow worthy, because there is a lots of persons, those having ideas, but every idea is not a worthy, and it's not a requirement government. We need, as you seen in last 2 days, we are working management, how to manage all the things, whether it is crowd, whether it is water, whether is pollution, whether is air quality, whether is agriculture, whether is retail, whether is banking sector. So we are need some people, so those will help us in management all the problems we are facing. And definitely, whenever is a problem, there is a solution. And I request all of you to please work on the problems so that it can help us in ease of doing of common public. As you know that Honorable Prime Minister is always saying about the common man issues. So please think about the common man issues, what they are facing problems, and there is a huge scopes. Also think about the smart IoT-based startups for regulation of smart cities. So that is from my side, and thank you for inviting me. I will connect with you.
Thank you, Gaurav sir. In fact, I appreciate your inputs, because there are a lot of things probably the investors are aware, but the person with an idea is not aware of. And as far as I have read, Indian startups, IoT startups particularly, are trying to work on application level. Their involvement at platform level or infrastructure level is not quite much. So that's the area. It's difficult to enter because there are big runners in that area. China is there, Israel is there. So, but still, looking forward, your insights will really be helpful. And through this forum, I request all the faculty members to pass on these inputs which we have received from Mr. Gaurav to our students, our faculty and peers, so that this schemes of MSME are taken advantage of. Thank you, Gaurav, for your inputs. And now going further.
Sir, one more request.
Yes.
Sir, one more request. I want to request you, sir, please give some specific session.
Sir, we are not getting your voice properly, Gaurav.
Okay, so can we
I'm really sorry, I'm not getting your voice properly. If you can put it in chat, that will be great.
Okay.
Yeah. So Gaurav will put it in chat and I'll share with everyone. So going further, the global IoT in manufacturing market size is expected to grow from almost 33.2 billion as it stands in 2020 to almost 53.8 billion by 2025. So at a compounded annual growth rate, CAGR of 10.1% during forecast period. in the current scenario, some IoT companies have seen a drop of 50% in new order intake as COVID-19 forced their customers to freeze budgets or delay IoT spending. The economic and social disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic has also affected the way the Internet of Things will be used in manufacturing industries post COVID-19. So from the industry perspective, I'd like to know from Mr. Ranjit how IoT-enabled platforms can help manufacturing industries of all sizes optimize efficiency and resiliency while advancing sustainability and customer experience targets in this new norm.
Actually, my views are against this data, to be very honest. And I know a lot of startups have doubled their revenues during the pandemic, especially in the IoT and digital space, right? So there is a new phrase that is floating, Dr. Bunglowala and the rest of the panel. You might have heard of it. It's called digital transformation, right? Which is, how do you digitize these traditional businesses, right? Earlier, somebody would take an Excel sheet and say, I believe my efficiency or my capacity utilization is 80%. You feed that into your ERP and then you do your plan. That I can fulfill so many orders based on this data. There was somebody physically doing this, right? With IoT-based systems, you're collecting all of this data from machines using protocols and hardware devices and things like that, and then automatically having this. You're essentially eliminating people. So there was one part of what you said in your presentation where you said people are moving up higher on the value chain in terms of their skills, right? So what we are seeing is we are eliminating middle management. Like manufacturing used to be filled with these guys, they call supervisors, who will just walk up and down and aap kya kar rahe ho, those kind of activities, right? Low value, low skilled kind of jobs. Now you're collecting all of this data and then you're giving people lower down on the chain, operators, data, and saying you make your manufacturing decisions based on those data, and you don't have people sitting over you telling you what to do. They're giving you the data, you make your decisions based on that, right? There is so many spaces which have been disrupted by data being given to people, like, and allowing people to make that decision. Like I talk about investment, right? Zerodha has disrupted the investment space because it gives you data on an app saying that is the stock price, click a button, buy your stock, make your decision based on historical trend and things like that. You're kind of democratizing the data, giving it to the person lowest in the value chain. Right? That's what IoT is doing. So what this allows manufacturers to do is it kind of helps them double down on these investments, because they're saying that, hey, the world is remote. So a lot of my people sitting in my, or part of my staff need to sit at work or in remote locations and start monitoring these systems, right? They've never had systems that were connected, available online on a web page to kind of start looking at these data and start to do their planning. It allows them to do that, number one. The second part is it allows them to optimize their workforce, to say, I can reduce my workforce, I can retrain my workforce, I can move them further up the value chain, and I can utilize my workforce a lot better, right? The third part is huge for companies that do process manufacturing, like tires and chemicals and pharma and things like that, because you can look at all of this data and analyze and say, look, I can cut my energy bills by 15%. I can cut my raw material cost by 15%. And things like that. These are powerful insights that come straight in. So I think the manufacturers are seeing this, and there's a big tidal wave to do this transformation. So every company that's in this space doing digital transformation, specifically in manufacturing, have not been impacted by the pandemic at all. They've kind of moved forward. You might see this trend play out in multiple sectors, every sector that is going digital, right? For instance, so many stock market accounts being opened over the last 1 year. I think the growth is through the roof on that one, because people are sitting at home. They have digital tools to be able to do this. That is growing. People buying health insurance and insurance policies online. So anything that makes a business code digital has just exploded through the pandemic. And as a consequence of that, even manufacturers who are kind of setting up their systems are looking at IoT, digital transformation, and technologies like that as an investment opportunity thing. Because what is happening is right now, this has started off a new capex cycle. As you probably know, in the world over, interest rates are at a all-time low. People are getting cheap loans. They are using this to kick off a new capex cycle as a response to the pandemic. And because of that, a lot of this capex is being earmarked for digital transformation and technologies like IoT. to make it happen. So it's going to be a boom and it's going to be an explosion. So I'm very bullish about this sector going forward, right? So yeah, that's my view on this entire space and in manufacturing. Happy to elaborate, any specific areas.
Great. So, as you say, the investment opportunities, if you are wanting to go digital and productivity increase, can you share with us a case study where your company has done so? Any particular case where you saw transformational change?
Oh, many case studies, right? So I'll give two examples, right, of this situation. So we work with this bottling company called Pernod Ricard. I mean, I know there are a lot of students here, they make alcohol. So people will be familiar with the famous alcohol brands all across India. Right? We've connected 30 of their lines, bottling lines, right, to give them productivity insights. So we've pushed that up by about 20 basis points from where they are by just simply adding simple sensors that gives them counts, integrating this with their ERP to know that so many batches of yours ran automatically. This was manually done. All of this gets integrated, and because it's a system on the cloud, right, they can rapidly deploy. So we go live on their lines in like 3 hours because the sensors are pre-ready. We collect all of their data, and then all of the system gets online in an hour, and they've been able to ship their increase the productivity by 20% over 3 months. Right? Simple productivity use case. That is probably the simplest use case in IoT and most value for money, big bang kind of use case for them. The other more sophisticated or complex use cases, we are working with Gujarat Ambuja Cements. Right? They have these brick kilns, the massive brick kilns, and what they do is this kiln gets pulled down for maintenance every year, and it costs crores of rupees to do that maintenance because you have to go into the brick kiln, and as you know, brick kiln is lined by bricks, and it runs under certain parameters, and it produces cement as the output. It is baking that whole product which makes the cement. Very energy intensive and things like that. So they came to us and said, guys, it costs us crores of rupees to go down to all of these kilns and kind of clean them up at the end of the year. We have to have 3 weeks of downtime to enable you to do this. Is there any data science magic that you can do with this data to know what is going on, right? And just going a little deeper into the whole data science domain, right? They gave us 120 parameters to work with, which is a nightmare for data scientists, right? Because it then becomes a multivariate data problem. But what we ended up doing with them is kind of modeled the twin. It's like create a digital twin of it, which is to say, use neural networks, ARIMA, all kinds of forecasting, eliminating false positives, eliminating parameters. And we came down to about 15 parameters that were vital of importance that told you the health of the kiln. And if you focused and ensured that the operators were operating the kiln at the right resort. So we would give an early warning signal saying that, hey guys, something is going wrong at this point in time, and you need to tweak the manner in which you're running the kiln. Then you could postpone your maintenance by about 3 months at this point in time. Now, if you take that across 80 kilns that they have in all their sites, so you've done it across 5 of them, we're going to expand this across 80. It gives you huge opportunities because you're essentially pushing out the maintenance by a further 3 months. And if you roll that across multiple years when this will go on, it is crores of rupees of savings that you can potentially do during this whole process. So simple use case, very complicated use case. And that's where IoT is, right? It's basic data analytics to give you productivity, because that's very simple. You just need to know when a machine is running or it's not, to very sophisticated machine learning models where you get 100 parameters and you have to spend weeks, cleaning the data, eliminating parameters, getting to the critical parameters, putting it through a neural network, telling you what are the outcomes that will happen, and then eventually doing things like, hey, this is what we feel you should do about your critical assets. So these are 2 typical use cases around this whole space that I can kind of elaborate.
Thank you so much. It really gives us an understanding and insight into what are the spaces where actually the IoT innovators of today can find out where they can position themselves.
And I had one quick 30-second comment, right, and just taking off on what somebody did, because I'm addressing students, right, and Altizen has raised about 10 million in its overall journey to build out this platform and things like that across multiple rounds, across multiple investors, right? I think it's very critical. I think that several people made this comment for students looking to kind of do things like this in the IoT space. I think the only thing matters is your customers, right? And I think several people said this in the panel. People come to us with a wild and woolly idea, right? If you want to do a startup, you should forget about investments for the first couple of years and build that first critical mass of customers to say, here is an idea, here is a customer who's actually paying me to deploy this idea. Here is a case study, which tells me why this idea is successful. This is how I'll be able to replicate it across 100 other customers in this space. By the way, here is a laundry list of customers. Hey, VC, can you help me get connects into these customers and take me from 1 to 10x in the next 2 years? That is the kind of value prop that you should be taking as anybody trying to be an entrepreneur. Like, instead of chasing cheap cash, you should be doing this hard work to kind of make the business case before going to a VC and saying, help me accelerate the story. This is the story. Use your connects, use your financial muscle, help me accelerate the story. That would be my advice.
Yeah, true, very true. So if you have a critical mass, if you have a business model in place, probably VCs can trust you very easily, comparatively as compared to just coming out with a new idea and throwing it towards the VCs. True. So moving our focus, although we'll talk about COVID scenario a little more, moving our focus from manufacturing industry to healthcare. So contactless or contact-free, as they called, healthcare services are utilized during COVID-19 particularly very much. In the post-COVID or new normal age, many hospitals can and care providers have actively pursued innovations for contactless services and operational processes for improved productivity and organizational agility. So I'd like to know from Ananya, what are the market opportunities for the existing and entry-level players in healthcare post-COVID?
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Bunglowala. I think, in fact, we've just recently made an investment in a remote patient monitoring solution. And I would break the opportunity down, just kind of taking a step and looking at what has existed as of today. So just, saying outright, I think COVID is an accelerant. It hasn't really changed anything fundamentally. Yes, consumer behavior is more accepting of telehealth solutions. Yes, it's created a digital transformation opportunity, but there are actually a lot of long-term trends in support of increasing IoT adoption, increasing remote patient monitoring solutions, and other opportunities for IoT in healthcare. I think back in about like 2011, 2012, you had your first burst, I think, or earlier also in India at least, you had your first burst of IoT in healthcare, and you had a lot of these remote, you had your wearables, so on and so forth. The focus back then, I think largely one can say, was a lot on the hardware and on capturing data. And when it comes to healthcare, more than capturing data, and that in itself can be a challenge, who's placing the wearable, so on and so forth, but the quality of the data becomes a huge issue. Because if you have interrupted power supplies, if you have, that can cause a challenge. Also, if the wearable or whatever machine has been applied to you wrongly, the quality of that there can be a lot of errors in that. And so a lot of the RPM or remote patient monitoring solutions that we've seen, conventional ones, suffer from this problem that even with the remote patient monitoring solution in place, doctors and hospitals find it difficult to trust patient care to them. So you almost have this situation where you have remote patient monitoring, but you're still sending, a nurse as frequently as you would to check up on the patient, so on and so forth. I think that the big opportunity now is just to create open data as a theme, and it's happening more and more. I think startups need to start looking at the data that they capture and creating algorithms so that that data itself can be cleaned and can be usable in a hospital setting. In terms of the opportunity itself, so the startup that we invested in, Fibris, during COVID, they're a young startup, and the NHS in the UK accelerated their adoption into the NHS within 8 months, which is unheard of for a startup to get adopted within the NHS ecosystem so widely in that kind of a short time frame. Just goes to show the need that was created during COVID, because you have this situation where you have elderly patients, right, in care homes. You have patients that cannot be reached. It's interesting, I mean, places like Chicago in the US, require these solutions just because of the inner cities are so hard for healthcare professionals to reach. And so, I would say that the huge opportunity right now is to look at, to have the remote patient monitoring technology. The technology, the hardware solution itself, while there are, of course, successful companies like TytoCare and Bioformis that are doing really well focusing on the hardware, what excites me as an investor are opportunities to look at what you can do with the data that comes out of it, create an open software solution that can tie in with various IoT devices, etc. So I think that's a very interesting space that's coming up.
Thank you. So yeah, you're right that COVID-1 accelerated the whole process of healthcare, IoT in healthcare as well. It has created a trust factor. Now people would trust the doctors, even the doctors. I mean, I know some conventional doctors would not trust these systems and they will believe in their own way of checking the patient health and all that. So yes, very true. Thank you so much, Ananya. I know you have to proceed for another commitment further. So before you leave, can I have a quick comment? I'll request other experts to wait for a while. I'll take your comment at the end. If I can take a quick comment from Ananya on what is that one piece of advice for a business leader interested in Internet of Things from your side?
Right. I mean, I'm not, I don't believe in giving too much advice. I think everyone needs to find their path in entrepreneurship. But I think I wholeheartedly agree with the advice that Ranjit and Vishaka gave in terms of, kind of having a kind of showing some traction before going and chasing VC money. I think just to first is, funding is just capital. That is just the oil you need to make your car work. I think when it comes to IoT, everything looks so doable. That's a point I think Ranjit made, right? And I think it's really important to hone on a particular specific use case that is large enough, that is, that has adoption, that you can show adoption. I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs there who don't know when to go and fundraise. And yes, I think you have to know the VC you go to. There are some that are willing to write pre-seed checks, others that are not. I think that we have a huge community of angel investors in India that is coming up, syndicates that are coming up. So you really need to know who's that strategic, where that strategic funding will come from. You need to have a strong vision and, of course, create some test use cases. I think, and then the second is focus on the application side of things. That's, as I've said that a couple of times. It just, my view is that a lot of, if you focus on hardware has a way of just getting commoditized over time. And so the value that you're capturing gets smaller and smaller. Whereas if you're focusing on developing the IT side of solutions and creating a moat there, that's more longer term, that has more longer term defensibility. And that's just a viewpoint. Again, not advice, just a viewpoint.
Okay. Thank you, Ananya. Thank you so much for your time and effort in spite of your busy schedule. So we'll proceed with the line of action we had planned. I'll come back to this question to all my remaining panelists in a while. So coming to Gaurav, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry was addressing, the Minister for Commerce and Industry was addressing a gathering during a visit to Science and Technology Park at Savitribai Phule Pune University SPPU. The less the government interferes in the startup ecosystem, the more potential it will have to become successful. This is what Union Minister Piyush Goyal said. But the government can play the role of facilitator. That's what he added. The center will organize a first of its kind innovation week to encourage a startup ecosystem in India in January 22. The event organized by the Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade DPIIT will help as part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, which celebrates the innovation ecosystem in India. It will all mark the 6th anniversary of Startup India initiative launch. So with this background, please tell us something about the key elements that MSME and Government of India evaluates in any IoT-based startup before.
Yes, sir. So the government of India is basically working on his ambitious plan to create at least 15 billion USD dollars industries based on IoT in next 6 years. Basically, we know that IoT is a network of interconnected devices that can be accessed through the internet. For this, as you know, lots of street lights will automatically go off when they sense no traffic on the roads. Recently, Government of India is working on Delhi-Mumbai corridor. And for this corridor, we are inviting invention or oblique ideas, or so how to save the energy. So we are working on these types of activities. Among these types of activities, some of the proposed concepts under Government of India has already proposed one policy based on IoT, and it's include development of tools to monitor quality of water flowing in the taps, labels in reservoirs, smart environment to monitor quality of air. These are some ideas in which some sectors in which we require the persons to come with some ideas. So that's the policy created by Government of India already. This policy is created with the objective to create an IoT-based industry in next 6 years, so that we are also counted in the some counting, so that we based internet, we have some numbers of IoT-based industries. As we know very much that the IoT connected device are surpassed us the number of human beings on the planet in already 2011. And we know that devices are connected by the internet is more than 50 billion globally. So these types of things will motivate us to do something else. And the things government is basically looking for before investing in any startups. We know that we have a clear-cut objective, and we have to suggest government that what problem we are solving, how much market it's have our application is having, who is the customer, and what is the supply, basically what is our market network, what is our funding requirements, and how we scale up and sustain in the market. And for this, how much efficient, passionate, experienced, and with the skills team we have. So just government is looking all about the things. And if your idea is worthy, help the people to survive in ease of doing. And it will also help the government to decide whether it's a common, I already mentioned that we are working on to resolve the issue of common man. So if you are having some idea based on that, we definitely give you the funds. And there are lots of funding parameters. We already issued the IoT policies in which government made arrangement of investing 1,000 CRs in IoT-based industry, so that there will be a huge market of IoT-based startups in near future. And we are also counted and countings that we have also a pool of IoT-based industries.
Thank you, Gaurav. That's a nice insight. Growing up to 15 billion by 2025 is a huge target, and all the agencies as well as the private runners have to come together to meet this. It cannot be government in isolation that can do. Thank you for your insights. Going further, I'll come to Vishakha. Vishakha, raising money from VC firms is extremely challenging. That's what any startup idea thinks. Looking at the current scenario in the startup ecosystem and leveraging on decades of full investment life cycle experience in startup investing, what are your views on the key elements that VCs evaluate in IoT-based startups?
So the first and foremost thing, like I even previously said, would be proof of concept. not at an idea where there should be. I'm not saying show us, profitability. Just show us proof of concept with initial traction, sort of like, if you are planning on implementing something in the manufacturing space or healthcare space, have a little, a pilot run of your model where, you're testing it out offline or online with, at least 3 to 5 clients that shows that, yes, this is something that, you are capable of running, because all of these ideas on the blueprint, they sound all good, but show us a test run of your business model with, at least 3 to 5 clients. The other thing that we look at is that for an IoT startup, especially, or any deep tech startup where it's very technology intensive, we look at the founders' backgrounds. You cannot have someone from finance or marketing running an IoT company, though it's essential to have someone of those academic background in your team, but it's at the end of the day how deeply rooted the founders are. If I am presented with 2 IoT startups where, I'll give you case one where, the founders have 5 years of, experience in the tech space, and the other startup has, founders with 15 to 20 years of experience in the tech space, then either day, even if, if the first one have better numbers, I still won't go for them, because it's the experience of the team that matters highly. Having all of those tech consultants, having senior advisors from the industry, whereas you have your founders background, but also have really senior industry veterans on your advisory board, on your board of directors, to be mentoring your startup, because this is a field that is so dynamic. There's no barrier to entry here apart from your own talent in the space. So that is something that we look at deeply. So yeah, proof of concept and founders background is the 2 upmost things. Apart from that, the other things that we would look is what sort of a revenue stream are you basically trying to generate here, because in tech-based startups, and especially IoT, there's not really much room for diversification apart from your existing business model. So we want to see going forward how you want to diversify the applicability of your platform. So if I have to narrow it down, I would say these are the top 3 things.
Thank you. So the proof of concept, having a small dry run done already, and kind of as a founder, as a proposer, you yourself are convinced that this model would work. That will give you that conviction to convince the VC in turn about
not
your
just
idea.
about the conviction, but it also helps you identify where you're having fallouts. It
Right.
helps you identify potential places where you can improve on, because on paper, like I said, everything, there might be problems with your model that you won't realize on paper, but when you're actually practically doing it, it gives you a lot more insights. And quite recently I've been evaluating a lot of startups who are more or less trying to get IoT in the procurement and sourcing for manufacturing units. That is something that you can have it mapped out perfectly on paper, but especially in this logistics and supply chain aspect of IoT and applying it in day-to-day life, there's a whole different set of problems that you face. So have that dry run. You'll find out what the red flags are in your business, and then you can improve it and then go for funding and slowly scale things up.
Right. Sure. Thank you, Ishaka. So with this, I kind of specific sector based questions, we are kind of okay. Now I'll take a quick input from each panelist on 2 points which I have kept for myself. So what's that one policy change that would accelerate the benefits of Internet of Things? Maybe the governmental policy change, possibly. So can I take a quick bite from Ranjit on this? What's that you feel can be the one policy change that would make all the difference?
I think the best policy is no policy, right? And I say this with all due respect and honesty, right? I think several people within the government also say this, that government has no business in business. And any policy that I'll give you an example of a misguided policy that has caused a lot of issues, right? Recently, the RBI announced a mechanism which made recurring subscriptions a big problem. They said, hey, we are worried about frauds happening in this space. Therefore, unless you do a two-factor authentication of subscriptions, right? Subscriptions cannot go through. So many startups are destroyed in that whole process, because this means that a consumer has to go and authenticate the transaction every time, and that has caused a steep drop. Like, for instance, I subscribe to Netflix. Now I have to do this convoluted mechanism of kind of paying money to subscription. I subscribe to Ken, which is like an Indian subscription company, right? And I have to authenticate the transaction manually every time. A lot of people get tired of it and then ignore it. This is kind of a classic example of misguided policy. So I think the best policy, and Gaurav sir actually outlined it very well, right? Set up the infrastructure, set up the environment, allow startups a free hand, be open with your funding, let people do whatever you want. Do not put policies in place which would disrupt innovation in any way. I think do less is always a good thing. And I think the government has said this over and over again, which is fabulous.
So be a facilitator and not a policy guide. So that would be a better approach to.
For instance, crypto is going through the same issue at this point in time, where people are kind of sitting on a policy and not providing guidance, right? You cannot ban crypto, right? Because the blockchain is tremendously exciting for everybody. So we have to be loose. I mean, look at the Americans on how they look at policy, right? Very relaxed about the whole thing. Don't look at Europe, where they pass too much policy that restricts the growth of technology. Would be the only thing I have to say about the whole thing.
Vishaka, your views on the same? Do you really feel the same the way Ranjit says?
I mean, I would definitely agree with whatever he said in terms of, be liberal for the startups. But whereas I feel that the government needs to be bullish on the MSME sector and making them adopt technology, have a cap that if you have a certain amount of, turnover for your enterprise, you need to have certain technological measures adopted as, a base standard. So I feel that they need to be more bullish for these units specifically.
I just wanted to come in this 30 seconds again. I just wanted to come in 30 seconds again, right? You should look at history, right? I don't know how many students have heard about it, but there was this real misguided attempt a few years back called the angel tax, right? I'm sure Vishaka is fully aware of the situation where the government again came in with a big hammer and said, look, angel investors take the most risk in a company, right? Which is why they take 30% of your company away when they do an angel investment, right? Typically, right? Because they are taking the most amount of risk. Now, when angel investors went in and invested in a company, right? Obviously, the share capital, the value of a share, just to simplify it, within a company goes up by a tremendous amount. That is the valuation. The government came in with a very misguided policy at that point in time and said, look, this is virtual money, right? Because the company is not listed on anything, right? If the share price goes up, they decided to tax the difference, right? Which kind of caused a huge breakdown. So I was in a WhatsApp group where 2,500 startups came together and were complaining about this whole thing. I got hit by 3 tax notices during this whole process. And it took several years to clean out this mess, right? Again, just reiterating that fact that you have to be super liberal about these kind of things. Give angel investors the space to invest, and have risk capital be tremendously rewarding. Give tax breaks to startups. Put the right policies in place to kind of have a liberal environment for all of these. I mean, this is classical examples. Do very little. Do as little as possible on the policy front would be my guidance.
You're on mute.
Yes, Gaurav, your view, can you hear me? I mean, coming from that setup who guides, creates policies, what do you see?
Yeah, actually, I already take the note about the comments made by sir. So whenever I receive some platform to discuss these types of issue with higher authorities, I definitely give my inputs. Yes, we all know that government is working on somehow political grounds. So we know that the concept is that no policy is very good concept. Policy is that there is no policy, but government can run without policy. So this is also a fact. Yeah, definitely there is some issues, and we always invite. We are also organizing lots of open forums to discuss these types of issues. So next time, whenever these types of activities we organize, we definitely invite some successful startups. That's what types of problems they are facing. So we will give them, collect them, and give their inputs to our higher authorities, all our IAS secretaries. So we will discuss with them, and definitely there is a problem, there is an outcome. So sir, I already mentioned, I already take note of this, and definitely we will do something, then we will achieve something. Thank you.
Sir, I have a request to the panel. There is a participant who wants to wants a permission to share his screen, and there's some use case on IoT he wants to talk about. So if you have 2 minutes for him, we can give him 2 minutes, and he can try share his idea with us right now. Vishaka ma'am?
Yeah, sure, that would be lovely.
Okay, so Gaurav sir, can you permit Mr. Mayur Parulekar to share his screen?
So we are making him a co-host.
Okay, okay.
So he can share.
Yeah, Mr. Mayur, if you can listen to me, please share. Yeah.
Sure. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Mayur Parulekar. I'm with DJ Sangvi College of Engineering, Vileparle, as an assistant professor out over here. I think for me, this was possibly the best particular session, because why I was looking at this was because of the fact that we have a use case, we already have a tested system, and we already have clients. I'm going to give a 5-minute rundown on what we are doing. And if any one of you all would want to have a look at this, we have a demonstration available and set up in our college. And the reason why I'm pitching to all of you all at this point of time is because we are looking at addressing the entire utility sector space, which means water, electricity, and gas meters. So that's the reason why I thought, I would pitch this to everyone out over here. If you can see my screen at this point.
I have a request, Mayur. Unfortunately, I'm booked for 12. I think this was started for 12.
Yes.
So
Okay.
Can you kind of email me the details of this?
I will.
And if you have a recorded video, I'll be happy to have a follow-up discussion with you on a one-on-one setting to give my feedback.
I will definitely. So Ranjit, just wanted to let you know, because of the fact that you mentioned that 4G and 5G is being used as last mile connectivity. We've actually broken off that ceiling, and we are using LoRa mesh to actually completely LTE systems.
I'm familiar with LoRa. Yeah.
Yeah. So the product protocol that we've developed actually eliminates completely the 4G LTE module, so that there is no dependency whatsoever on the service providers such as Airtel or anyone who can raise their rates at any point of time, throwing us completely off business.
Cool. Thank you, Mayur. So I really need to bounce.
Sure. Absolutely.
So Dr. Bunglowala has my email, and you can just send me a follow-up email. And I'll be happy to talk.
What I'll suggest is, with permission of the panel, we can, if I can share email IDs of all of you with Mayur, he's one of our colleagues in Mumbai. He can share his idea over email and connect with all of you later, because yes, we have also scheduled the closing session immediately at 12, and the Pro Vice Chancellor and the Director will be in the waiting. So Mayur, is it fine we do it this way?
I definitely, not a problem, sir. Just wanted to show you that this is the product that we've actually designed. It's ready and it's in the college, and we are ready with that particular design.
Great.
So just wanted to let you know that.
Amazing. So I'll also like to have a walkthrough of your product, but we'll do it offline.
Definitely, sir.
Thank you, Mayur, for and you can stop sharing now.
Yeah.
So towards the end, I know everybody is hard pressed on time, especially all our guests. Gaurav is traveling. Mr. Ranjit has his own commitments further. Vishaka has been very patient and helpful. So towards the end, in the words of Brendan O'Brien, Chief Architect and Co-founder Arya Systems, if you think that the internet has changed your life, think again. The IoT is about to change it all over again. So with this, I would like to thank from the bottom of my heart all the esteemed panel members for sharing their views on this extremely important subject. Thank you very much, and over to you, Isha.
Thank you, sir. That was such an engaging session. I thank all the panelists for sparing their valuable time. I now request the audience to drop their questions, if any, in the chat box or raise their hands electronically. Thank you for all your questions. The link of the feedback form is floated in the chat box. Kindly fill the feedback form before leaving the session. After a short 5 minutes break, we will have the valedictory ceremony for our event, followed by a quiz. Hope to see you all there. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day ahead.
Thanks once again to all the panelists, Ranjit, Vishaka, Gaurav. Many thanks, and we'll be like.
You are muted.
I'm not. Am I muted now?
No, we can hear you. No, we can hear you.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Ranjit, Vishaka, and Gaurav. So we'll be in contact with you, close contact with you. Thank you for all the time you gave today. And I hope all the deliberations today would help all the participants, and through them, all the students of various colleges they are representing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.